Good morning. Namaskar. Welcome to the webinar on information sources on juvenile justice. On behalf of KELPRO, that is Kerala Library Professionals Organization, myself, Humayun Kabir, offers a warm welcome to all the library professionals, faculty members, and faculty members not only in library and information science, but in all disciplines, students, research scholars within the state and outside the state, and even outside the country who are online for viewing and listening to this useful academic webinar. Few words about KELPRO, that is Kerala Library Professionals Organization. It was launched in 1992 and came in full operation in 1993 under the Travancore Literary Scientific Society Act, with a prime focus to advance knowledge in theory and practice of library and information science. KELPRO stands to promote overall welfare and professional status of library professionals. It is active for the last 3 decades for the service of the society, but it is mainly emphasizing or concentrating on publication activities. We have our prime publication journal, KELPRO Bulletin, a biannual peer-reviewed professional journal in library and information science, which has been accepted widely by the academic community, and not only in India, but even outside India. It is a UGC-approved journal and now preparing to enter in the UGC care list. Coming to our program on information sources on juvenile justice, we received good response from many corners of the country and outside India. You may be remembering that we have conducted several webinars during these pandemic days. Many of you might have participated in these programs, and we gratefully acknowledge your presence in those webinars. Today's lecture is on the topic information sources on juvenile justice. This topic is useful to all, but more particularly researchers in the legal field, criminology field, social welfare, adolescent psychology, etc. Similarly, also useful to the library professionals working in law libraries in the country and outside the country. I'm indeed glad to introduce the speaker, Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, who is presently a postdoctoral fellow at the Department of Library and Information Science of University of Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, India. He had participated and presented papers in several national and international seminars, workshops, conferences, etc. Published several research papers in reputed journals, chapters and books. Dr. Joseph has conducted several webinars organized by library associations, organizations, and institutions from India, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and Iran. I humbly request all of you to mute your audio as well as video till completion of his lecture. After the lecture, surely you can have your questions. Even after the lecture also, on any day, at any time, you can, Dr. Joseph will, he is available, and you can clarify your doubts with him. Now, over to the speaker, Dr. Joseph I. Thomas.
Greetings to all. It's really encouraging to notice that KELPRO has come up with a webinar by Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, postdoctoral fellow in the field of library and information science, who has been keen enough to share his expertise in the field of information resources and services, especially in those areas which are on hot demand in the present scenario. Today we have Dr. Joseph making a challenging intrusion into the topic juvenile justice. The trailer itself speaks voluminous about the efforts taken by the scholar in consolidating a total of about 184 relevant, authoritative and authentic resources pertaining to the field. As is said, The right information is the right kind of food and fuel to the brain, mind, and the soul. The webinar is indeed going to be a real blessing to all the learners, students, teachers, research scholars, as well as policy makers to get a first-hand information as well as an advanced knowledge on all the significant resources related. Once again, I take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers and kudos to Dr. Joseph I. Thomas. May many more such milestones come along your way and many such events come through our way wherein we can witness the evolution and revolution of librarianship in its different dimensions. I wholeheartedly wish you the very best. Go, nail it.
Information Sources in Juvenile Justice, presenting by Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala.
Introduction. Justice delayed is justice denied. In order to serve justice to ill-fated adolescents, it's quintessential that information sources related to juvenile justice must be known and utilized effectively by all. Let's not forget how Tiruvallur defined justice in his epic Tirukkural. According to him, investigating intensely, leading fairly without unduly favoring anyone, analyzing and acting constitute justice. It's evident from the visionaries' verses that rights and duties of each and every citizen must be protected from unlawful exploitation. In this presentation, I have listed an array of information sources pertaining to juvenile justice which will help each and every citizen to protect the rights and correct the wrongs of juveniles around us. Overview of today's presentation. Journals 76, ETD, Electronic Theses and Dissertations 9, Reports 4, Standards 3, Books 5, Case Studies 6, Institutional Sources 31, Human Resources 15, E-Resources 21, Helpline numbers 9, and AMPS 5, and comprising a total of 184 resources. Journals as per UGC Care List. I have listed almost 60 journals as per UGC Care List. Other scholarly journals. This list of journals on UGC on juvenile justice was created on referring website of Center for Children's Advocacy (CCA), affiliated with the Law School, University of Connecticut. I have listed 16 sources. List 16 journals which are of high quality. ETDs. Juvenile Justice System in India, a Statutory Procedure Study. PhD thesis by Mohan Shakti. The Strategy of Juvenile Justice and Human Rights Dimensions and Challenges. PhD thesis by Monika Sharma. Laws Relating to Juvenile Justice in India, a Study of Judicial Trends. PhD thesis by Manish Kumar. Juvenile Justice System, a Comparative Study. PhD thesis by Akshay Singh. Administration of Juvenile Justice in India, a Social Legal Study. PhD thesis by Manish Kumar Rai. From Protection to Accountability, a critical analysis of juvenile justice system in India with special reference to the state of Karnataka, a PhD thesis by Chaitra V. Sentencing and Treatment of Juvenile Offenders, a Review and Critique. Thesis submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements for a degree of honors in psychology by Jessica R. Talbot. A study on factors underlying juvenile delinquency and positive youth development programs. Dissertation submitted in partial requirements for the in fulfillment of the requirements for a master's degree in development studies by Kavita Sakmai. From scientific research findings to juvenile justice practice in Scotland. PhD thesis by Christina P. Palfke submitted to the University of Edinburgh. Are some of the theses that is directly related to juvenile justice. I recommend that these theses must be read carefully so that you can understand what is the area that we must focus on. These are some of the reports relating to juvenile justice. Law Commission reports on justice, report of the International Conference of Primary Health Care, report of the National Commission to review the working of the Constitution, SICA Committee report on the Committee of State Education Ministers on implications of the proposal to make elementary education a fundamental right. These are the standards which is related to juvenile justice. Beijing rules, international standards on imparting juvenile justice, guidelines for the prevention of juvenile delinquency to be known as Riyadh guidelines are some of the standards that's available for imparting juvenile justice. Books, Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Model Rules 2016, Lawman's Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, Bear Act 2020 edition by Kamal Publication, Criminal Procedure Code along with Juvenile Justice and Probation of Offenders 2020 edition by Professor Dr. Rega Surya Rao, R.V. Kelker's Lectures on Criminal Procedure including Probation and Juvenile Justice by K.N. Chandrasekharan Pillai are some of the books that is related to juvenile justice. Case studies. The following are some of the sources by which one can find case studies related to juvenile justice. Juvenile Justice and Juvenile Delinquency Case Studies Workbook by James Windle and Nicole Bain. Juvenile Sex Offenders, what the Public Needs to Know by Camille Gibson and Donna M. Vandiver. Juvenile Justice and Introduction by John T. Whitehead and Stephen P. Ladd. Juvenile Justice and Active Learning Approach by Frank A. Scalmager, and An Insight into Indian Juvenile Justice System. An Insight into Juvenile Justice System by Vaishali Rathore. Preventing and Reducing Juvenile Delinquency, a Comprehensive Framework by James C. Howell. Institutional sources at national level. The following 6 types of childcare institutions recognized by National Legal Service Authority will provide authentic information about juvenile justice apart from police stations. They are observation homes, special homes, place of study, children's home, open shelters, fit facilities. Apart from the above institutions, information can be sought from other institutional sources described in the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Model Rules 2016. They are described in the coming slide. The below mentioned institutions are described either in Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Model Rule 2016 or Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, are capable of providing authentic information regarding juvenile justice. The institutions are Juvenile Justice Board, Children's Court, Child Welfare Community, Child Care Institutions, Open Shelter, Foster Care. Juvenile institutional sources at national level. Juvenile Justice Act 2015, a handbook for field administrators, mentions of the following additional sources: District Child Protection Unit, District Child Protection Society, District Child Protection Committee, Block Level Child Protection Committee, Village Level Child Protection Committee. These are the additional sources from which we can get authentic information about juvenile justice. What's happening? What's the real picture in India? Institutional sources at international level. International Society for Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect, Safe Kids Worldwide, International Association for Child Safety, International Association of Youth and Family Judges and Magistrates, International Institute for Rights of the Child, International School of Juvenile Justice, Youth Advocate Program International, International Institute for Child Rights and Development, Child Helpline International, International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, International Justice Resource Center, Child Rights International Network, World Congress on Family Law and Child Rights, Juvenile Justice International, the United Nations Interagency Panel on Juvenile Justice, International Juvenile Justice Observatory are some of the institutional sources at international level. International Juvenile Justice Observatory are some of the institutional sources at juvenile level. Human resources. Members of the Special Juvenile Police Force, Juvenile Probation Officer, members of the Juvenile Justice Committee, District Child Protection Officer, staff in Boston schools established under Reformatory Schools Act 1897 and its amendments and subsidiaries in Indian states through respective acts. The academic community, criminologists, sociologists specialized in juvenile delinquency, forensic psychologists, juvenile justice counselors. In this section, I will brief some persons specialized in juvenile justice in India. Ms. Anuruba Giliyal, Senior Research Officer, National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Mrs. Mehruk Adanwala, Child Rights Advocate, Mumbai. Swagata Raha, Head Restorative Practices at Enfold India, Bangalore. Dr. Geeta Sekhon, United Nations Consultant specializing in trafficking and child rights. Kailash Satyarthi, founder of Bachpan Bachao Andolan. Some of the e-resources in juvenile justice. NLRD, National Legal Research Desk, Supreme Court of India, National Center for Biotechnology Information, International Labour Organization, National Judicial Academy, UNICEF Innocenti Research Center, child-related legislation maintained by Ministry of Women and Child Development, UNICEF reports and articles on juvenile justice, National Institute of Public Corporation and Child Development, Asian Legal Information Institute, Uttarakhand Judicial and Legal Academy, Childline, National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, Anti-Ragging Portal by Ministry of Education, Khoya Paya, Citizen Corner for Track Child, National Tracking System for Missing and Vulnerable Children, Committee on the Rights of the Child in the Office of the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights, Digital Library of the United Nations, National Prisons Information Portal, National Legal Service Authority, South District Legal Service Authority are some of the e-resources in juvenile justice. The following are some of the helpline numbers. Child Helpline Number, National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, National Anti-Ragging Helpline, National Tracking System for Missing and Vulnerable Children, Women Helpline, Mental Health Rehabilitation Helpline, Drugline De-Addiction, UNICEF India, South District Legal Service Authority are some of the helpline numbers. Mobile apps for juvenile justice. Juvenile Justice Act 2015, POL app by Kerala Police, 112 app. This app will send an emergency alert with the user's details and location information along with the generated call to 112 to a state emergency control room and person's emergency contacts. Surakshit app. This app is on personal safety for 6 to 18 years old. Children learning body safety rules, safe and unsafe touch, how to identify safe adults, stories to help children and understand the perpetrator of abusive actions is solely responsible for it. Blame and shame, internet safety and digital citizenship, etc. are some of the contents of Surakshit app. Missing person registration application. This app by Delhi Police helps trace missing persons from jurisdiction of NCT Delhi. My contribution to this field. I have recently contributed 9 chapters in this area in a book with the following bibliographical details. Title Adolescence Education, editors Dinesh S. and Dr. Sami Babu M. Publishers APS Publishing Corporation, year of publication 2020, with the following ISBN name. A video named book book review of the book entitled Adolescence Education is uploaded in my YouTube channel List Connect, and this video I have briefed the chapter-wise summary of all the 28 chapters in the book. In the following slides, I have briefed about those 9 chapters that I and my collaborating authors have penned for the book. Chapter 7, New Perspective of Bullying, Cyberbullying. This chapter, penned by Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, postdoctoral fellow, and Dr. B. Mini Devi, head Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala, explains the various types of cyberbullying and anti-bullying laws in India. The chapter introduces to the readers about the various sections in Indian Penal Code, IT Act and POSCO Act 2012 that ensures protection to the victims in case a person is bullied. Chapter 8, Cyber Aggression and Bullying in Adolescence. This chapter is penned jointly by Asghar S., Master of Library and Information Science student, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas. This chapter briefs the 10 most common methods used for effective cyberbullying. This chapter briefs about 6 laws in India and those policies that will be effective in controlling cyber aggressiveness and bullying behavior among adolescents. Chapter 11, International Laws Against Bullying. This chapter is penned jointly by Dr. B. Vididevi, Head, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala. The chapter gives an introduction to a total of 9 international laws and conventions that could be of help to curb the menace of bullying and help victims. Anti-bullying organizations and overview. This chapter is penned jointly by Dr. Nair Ramadevi Apukuttan, Assistant Librarian, Department of Music, University of Kerala, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala. This chapter details on the various types of bullying, characteristics of bullies and victims, and the organizations that work against bullying. 12 anti-bullying organizations and their objectives and services are depicted in this chapter. Socially unacceptable behaviors among adolescents. This chapter is penned jointly by Aravind M.S., Faculty of Internal Security, Hotspot IAS Academy, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas. This chapter narrates about the attitudes of youth and its reasons for their attitude. The chapter also gives a picture regarding the 5 types of difficulties faced by children, which in turn makes them vulnerable to exploitation. Chapter 19, Information Resources for Crime Data. This chapter by Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, and Dr. B. Mini Devi, Head, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala, enumerates 18 information sources from which crime data could be downloaded free of cost. Chapter 20, Rights of Children, a Bird's Eye View on Indian Laws. This chapter by Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, and Dr. B. Mini Devi, Head, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala, enumerates 27 Indian laws that exist for guarding the rights of children. Chapter 21, Atrocities Against Children and Constitutional Remedies. This chapter, penned by Gogul Gopan, MLIC student, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala, gives an introduction to the provisions under Indian Constitution that covers the rights of the child. A total of 15 articles and 9 sections in Indian Constitution related to child rights have been listed and enumerated in this chapter. Chapter 22, Children, Crime and Punishment as per IPC and CRPC. This chapter, authored jointly by Mr. Rajivan MS, MLIC student, and Dr. Joseph I. Thomas, Postdoctoral Fellow, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Kerala, gives an introduction to the crimes done to a child, the crimes done by a child, and punishments given to A and B as per Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code. In this presentation, I have summarized those information sources from which data on juvenile justice could be collected. The crux of my contribution in the book Adolescence Education, edited by Dinesh S. and Dr. Samir Babu, is also presented in this presentation. I have also cited the YouTube video which I have created. This is the bibliographical details of the book.
Good morning to all. I am Arun Kumar, Reference Assistant, University of Kerala. I think today's webinar on information sources in juvenile expected to bring an insight into the audience about the juvenile justice. How a common man can help a juvenile not to lead a life in conflict with the law, and how the society must approach a juvenile who have a tendency for delicacy. Um, who must we consult for taking advice on handling the juvenile problems, and which all the institutions help in achieving these goals. I thank Dr. Joseph I. Thomas for delivering such a lecture in this topic, which is very significant in our society nowadays. I think we have participants from Kerala, from outside Kerala, and some of our participants are from our neighboring countries also. On behalf of KELPRO, I thank all the participants from the different parts of the world for making the seminar a grand success. I thank the KELPRO officials for conducting such a webinar for us. Thank you. Thank you, Omat.